1,000 millimeters per second, and 2,000 DPI? I think it's time we found out. I'm Gord Potter, and you're watching LaserNug. Welcome back. I've had this bolt for 2 months now, and I've been taking it slow and easy, and I think that's the right approach, trying to test different settings. But I've been running probably 400, 500, I think once at 600 millimeters per second, trying to test my engrave settings. But if you look at the specs of this machine, it apparently can perform much more efficiently or much faster. And I think we need to test it out today. I'm going to grab a 12 by 19 piece of maple craft wood. It's not plywood, maple veneer, and I believe it's got an MDF center. And we're going to use this as our sacrificial piece. And we're going to just see how fast this machine can go, and I'm going to see what does happen when I turn this up to its maximum performance. So you folks that know me well, you know I'm very risk averse. But we're going to start out with just a very simple pattern. It's got a bit of detail in it. I'll take you into light burn here. For those of you that know me, you know I love tractors a lot. So I'm just going to make a simple pattern. I've got a tractor here. I like to try different fonts whenever I'm testing engraving just to see what they may look like. So I've got a bit of a fancy font up top, and then I've got kind of more of a block font at the bottom. I also want to make sure I identify what I'm at here. So we're going to start right at the top, 1,000 millimeters. I'm going to start at 40% power, just because I'm not sure what it's going to come out as. And I'm going to start at 2,000 DPI. Let me grab that. I'm just going to shrink this down because I don't need that to be too huge. I'm going to bring her into the middle. I also don't want that font. I'd like an Arial, I think is best. Let me just grab the Arial if I can find it. There it is. That should work. Okay, and we're in good shape. Let me just bring this in a bit. Okay, and we're good. I also want this to be my black layer, so I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to go down to the bottom left here so that it's a fill layer. And I'm going to group everything from the bottom right to the top left. Go up to the top, group. I'm good. I know I've got a 12 by 19 piece, so I'd like to get at least 3 down, and it's just a little shy of 12 inches. So we'll highlight this, go up to our sizing box here, and I just want to drop it down until I'm at about 3.5 in height. In fact, I can just put 3.5 in there, and that should do it. So that gives me a width of about 2.5, and that should do it. We're going to start off at 1,000, 40%, and 2,000 DPI. So I'm going to come over to the right, click on my black layer. We're going right to the max. I'm going to go 40% power. And I'm going to leave 40% as a min and a max, just so it doesn't slow the laser down. And I'm actually going to bump this up to 2,000 lines per inch. Wow. Have it on fill. I'm going to press OK. My score line, which is my blue, I'm going to bring this up to 1,000 as well. I'm going to leave the power setting the way it is, see what happens. And we've got air assist on. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to drop down to my bottom right. Under user origin, I want to put this in the top left. I tend to find that more convenient for me. And I think we're in good shape. We're grouped, we're highlighted. I've got my settings. And let's send it off to the bolt. We're going to call this test 1. Listen for the beep. There she goes. I have to admit, I am a little nervous. It already seems like it's super fast at 400 or 500 millimeters per second. Catch ourselves in the top left corner here. Go into my nudge commands just to get it right up there nice and tight. I've already squared my piece in on the honeycomb. I think that works well for an origin. The display shows my design. press my origin. I just want to frame it. Should be good there. And we're going to autofocus. For reference, it's 1/8 or 3mm maple craftwood. I believe we're good. Let's start the piece. I don't know if you can see that clearly, but I've got a warning message that's come up on the screen. Hey, engraving target, buffer distance run faster. The engrave area of the file is too close to the boundary, and the buffer distance exceeds the work area. The job has been suspended. What it's telling me is that as the laser goes back and forth along the gantry, it requires a buffer distance. And it's saying that I need 21 extra millimeters on either side of the end of the design. And in this case, you can see I've placed the laser right in the very far top left corner. And what it's telling me is that there's not enough room to the left of that laser for it to come by or to finish and to turn and come back. So what I'm going to do is move my origin in about 21 millimeters, so about 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to try it again. Okay. A little more than 3/4, because 21 is about just over 2 centimeters, which is almost a full inch. So I'm just going to give it a little extra play. Let's set our origin there. Let's frame it. Let's autofocus again, just in case. And let's run the job. Alrighty, at 2000 DPI, which is pretty wicked resolution, that was an 11-minute and 6-second burn. Let's burn it again, but at 1000 DPI. We'll cut it in half. $500 DPI. Have you good folks started playing with images yet, or pictures? Trying to see if you can engrave an image on, some maple or some Baltic birch. I tried the other day. This is one of my first creations. It took about 1 hour and 10 minutes to burn it. Turned out reasonably okay. But it doesn't hurt to pump it up a bit. Don't follow me on this one. I've only done it once or twice, but here's a beautiful picture. You need to left click the image. There it is. And then it says adjust image. Image will come up. The image on the left that you see is the original, and the image on the right is kind of what it could look like if you make some adjustments to contrast and brightness, this gamma, whatever that means down below. I'm going to use Stucky because I've seen on a couple of videos that Stucky seems to be a good setting for doing images. But again, we're going to bump this up to 2000 on the DPI. That's me down here on the bottom. There we go. 2000. That changes your line interval. But let's just say that's okay. And if I come up here to the right hand side on my black layer, you'll see the mode has changed to image. And again, I'm going to change that speed to 1000. I'll leave the power at 35, even though we did the first picture at 40. I think we're good. We're on Stucky, 2000 DPI, and 1000 speed. Let's click OK. Now this is an interesting message. I was hoping this would come up. It says here your DPI setting is over 600 and very few lasers are physically capable of this. This is Lightburn telling you that. It's not the bolt. This message is coming out of Lightburn, and it's going to say, did you intend to set it this high? The answer is yes, because apparently my bolt can do it, and I think we just witnessed it. Okay, I'm good. I've got the image at 6. I need to shrink this image because I want to be able to fit 3 in again. So let's go back to a 3.5 inch height. I've got my image set. I'm 1000 speed, 2000 DPI. Yes. Okay. And yes, we do intend to do that. Let's send it to the bolt. Okay, and I'm going to call this test 4. Listen for the beep. It's a bigger file, as you can imagine, because it's a photo or an image. While we're waiting for this to load, when you go on to Malone's Custom Creations, I think is what it's called, and you see what he's doing, there are a number of other steps he did as far as flattening the image. I didn't do that here. I just want to see how it turns out without doing all those other steps, because I'm not sure I want to flatten it. Let's take a look. So I think you got to admit, that's pretty impressive. I ran all of these at 1000 millimeters per second, changed the DPI from 2000 DPI, which is crazy high resolution, down to 500 DPI, which is still incredibly good resolution. I also learned from the Thunder Laser Canada tutorials that of the 3 lenses, the 1.5 inch, 2.5 inch, and the 4 inch, that the 1.5 has the most minutest laser point. So it does the best detail out of the 3 of them. That's why I used the 1.5 inch lens that it came with to run this test. Let's take a look at the results. Right off the honeycomb, this is what we're looking at. That's your 2000 DPI. Everything was run on the first set of designs at 1000 millimeters per second, 40% power, and I didn't change the min and the max. I just wanted to see, because when you change the min to a lower number, it's going to slow the laser down. I just wanted to see how fast it ran. So I left it at the 40 and 40, and 2000 DPI for the first one. You can see that's quite a burn. The second one was down to 1000 DPI, and the last one we did was at 500 DPI. That is pretty impressive. I virtually don't have to put a sanding pad to that. When it came to images, I ran at 35% power. You may have noticed here, and I'll put this under the magnifying glass in a second, that you've got a little bit of overburn, or not overburn, I guess it's residue, and that's because I set it at 35% power, but I didn't change the min. But again, I'm just starting to figure out pictures or using images like photographs and trying to do some engraving with them, so I don't really know a lot about it yet. So by all means, I'll leave a link in the description of this video to this gentleman, Malone's Custom Creations, I think it's called. I'll put the link in the description. He does a pretty simple picture and will give you at least some basic settings to start with. Let's take a look in the magnifying glass. So this is at 2000 DPI in the design. You can see there's a ton of detail there, but there's also a much deeper engrave at 2000 DPI and a little bit of residue, as you can see there, or that smoke residue that comes off that needs to be sanded off. Let's drop down to 1000 DPI. There's your 1000 DPI. Still really clean. Still quite a bit of smoke residue, but again, a light sanding with a 220 or a 320 and that comes right off. The color of the engrave is a little bit lighter. It's not as dark, and it's also not as deep. This I was impressed with. That's at 500 DPI and 1000 millimeters per second. That is an absolutely beautiful, clean engrave. Still lots and lots of detail, very defined, very little smoke residue. So not a lot of cleanup work to do, in fact, virtually none. If I hadn't put that score line in there, there'd be absolutely none. That's a nice, clean, crisp engrave at 1000 millimeters per second. That's fast. On the designs, the tractor, your 2000 DPI took 11 minutes and 6 seconds. At 1000 DPI, it was 5 minutes and 57 seconds. And at 500 DPI, it was 3 minutes and 5 seconds. Which, you know, you would expect that it would drop dramatically as you half the resolution on each of one of the engraves. Let's take a look at the photos. That's at 35% power and 1000 millimeters a second and 2000 DPI. I'm not sure if you can see it in the camera, but I can actually read the writing on that cup. And you've got a lot of detail in there. In fact, I can see the stippling on the drop ceiling above her head. Very nice, very detailed. Let's take a look at 1000 DPI. And at 500, still a beautiful engrave. Very clean, lots of detail, and less residue. Similar to the design of the tractor. And just for reference, on the photo, 2000 DPI took 13 minutes 48 seconds, 1000 DPI took 6 minutes 23 seconds, and at 500 DPI it was 3 minutes and 17 seconds. Again, relative, makes sense. For reference, when I started playing around with images, I took this photo here. I ran this at 250 millimeters per second at 35% power and 600 DPI. That took about an hour and 10 minutes. There's certainly a lot more depth to this picture. You can feel the engrave. It's not a surface picture, so to speak. It actually has engraved into the wood, and there's certainly a lot of detail there. I definitely need to play and learn more about how to enhance the brightness, contrast, Stucky, DPI, all those good things. But the beauty is, it was worth playing around because it came out pretty nice, especially for a second or third try. First one didn't come out so good. That's why I'm not showing it to you. So I think that'll wrap it up. Just a couple final things. I hope this gives you a little more confidence if you're new to the Bolt as I am. Over the last 2 months, I've just been taking my time very slowly, been a little hesitant to push the envelope a bit, but that machine performs, and I'm quite impressed. I was a little leery of pumping it up because I think the highest speed I've gotten it to so far is 600 millimeters until today. That thing will put out. I was really impressed that this bolt was smart enough to know that when I set my origin here in the corner on that piece of maple craft board, that it did not have enough room beside the origin for the laser head to be able to slow down, turn around, and come back. And it stopped me with that warning message to tell me that I needed to move my origin over at least 21 millimeters to allow this head time to slow down and turn and come back. That's pretty impressive. And if you're using the machine for production because you're going to sell goods, time is money. And when you can cut your time in half or more by utilizing the power that this machine has, I think it's helpful. So if you haven't tried it yet, when you're ready and you're feeling a little less hesitant, give it a shot. You've got some settings now. Try to use those settings. Start off with lower power settings, higher speeds, and then you can adjust from there. Well, today was a great day, and I'm glad you spent it with me. Now I have the opportunity to go back and start to revisit some of those settings at 300, 400 millimeters to see if I can put out the same quality at a much higher speed. One thing I'll leave you with today, don't forget to clean the lens and your mirrors regularly, like almost daily. That debris that you see floating around in there starts to sit and accumulate on top of them. Super important to clean them. Have a great week with your families. Please be kind to each other, and thanks again for sticking around with me today. I hope I see you on the next one. Cheers.